The sun was barely up when I stepped outside with my coffee, steam curling into the cool morning air. For a mom, everything was quiet, the kind of calm you only get just before the neighborhood wakes. Birds chattered from the oak tree by my fence. A lawn sprinkler hissed across the street. And then, like a bad punchline to an already tired joke, I saw it, the white Range Rover. Again. Right in front of my gate, angled like she'd parked it with her eyes closed, completely blocking me in. It was the fourth time that week. Fourth. I stood there in my driveway, mug in hand, staring at the massive SUV like it had personally insulted me. And in a way it had. I needed that gate clear, always. It wasn't some ordinary suburban picket fence gate. That gate was the only access to the back lot, where I kept my equipment, trailers, and the truck that paid my bill. It wasn't just my driveway. It was the artery of my work, the one thing I needed unobstructed if I wanted to get out and earn a living. And there it was, blocked again by Karen's steel and glass trophy. The queen herself. Right on schedule, she appeared. Her front door opened across the street, and she strutted down her walkway in yoga pants so tight you could hear the polyester squeak, balancing a designer tote on one arm and a venti iced latte in the other. Her sunglasses were already on, though the sun was barely peeking over the roofs. She walked with that deliberate slowness of someone who thought the world revolved around her errands. "Morning," I called, biting back the irritation burning my throat. She glanced over her sunglasses at me like I was some kind of annoying insect buzzing near her ear. "Oh. Hi." She didn't stop. Didn't even look guilty. Just kept walking toward the Rover like she owned the street. "Faye, any chance you could move your car? You've blocked my gate again." I forced my voice to stay calm, casual, though my jaw was clenching so hard I could hear the grind of my own teeth. Karen paused with one hand on the Range Rover's door handle. She tilted her head, gave me a smile at all, just a tightening of lips painted an unnatural shade of coral. "It's public property. I can park here." That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement that she'd trapped me in my own driveway. Just that smug little line she'd tussed out every single time, like she'd practiced it in the mirror. "You know it blocks me in," I said, trying to keep the frustration from spilling out too much. "I can't get my truck out if you park there." She shrugged, already sliding into the leather seat. "Maybe you should plan better. You can't expect to have the whole street to yourself. Deal with it, deal with it." The engine purred to life, and she backed out a few inches. Not to move, not to clear the gate, just to adjust her angle so her Rover sat even closer to my fence. Then she shut the door, tossed her hair, and marched back inside her house, lat in hand, leaving the car there like a fat white monument to her entitlement. I stood there for a long moment, coffee cooling in my hand. I wanted to throw it at the windshield, watch it splatter brown across that gleaming white paint. I wanted to scream loud enough for the whole cul-de-sac to hear. Instead, I just stared, the words "deal with it" ringing in my ears. It wasn't like I hadn't tried to solve it the civilized way. I talked to her 3 times, politely at first. Left notes under the wiper blades. Each time, I got the same canned response: "We'll review your concern." Weeks went by. Nothing happened. Karen knew nothing would happen. That was the real power she had. The HOA board was stacked with her friends. If Karen wanted to park her Range Rover on my roof, they'd probably send me a notice for obstructing her tires. And the neighbors. They pretended not to see. Everyone tiptoed around her. She was the type to measure grass length with a ruler, to take pictures of your trash cans if they stayed on the curb too long. People were scared of her. But not me. Not anymore. I stood there, sipping my now bitter coffee, staring at the hulk of the Rover. Its glossy paint reflected the morning sun like a mirror. The chrome layering on the back glinted smugly. Range Rover. Luxury on wheels. 4 tons of arrogance. And in that moment, the anger that had been simmering for weeks finally snapped into focus. I thought about last Monday, when she blocked me in and I had to cancel a job hauling lumber because I couldn't get my truck out. That was $600 gone. I thought about Tuesday, when she rolled her eyes as I begged her to move because my mother had a doctor's appointment I was late for. I thought about Wednesday, when she laughed, and said, "Maybe you should get a smaller truck." And now Thursday. Here she was again like clockwork, reminding me just how powerless the rules made me feel. Except I wasn't powerless. My gift drifted past the Rover to the back lot, where my real beast sat waiting. A 12-wheeled logging truck, paint faded, bumper dented, engine growling low whenever it turned over. It was a machine built for power, for moving trees the size of telephone poles, for chewing up dirt roads without blinking. That truck didn't care about HO rules. That truck didn't care about Range Rovers. The idea hit me like a jolt of electricity. It was reckless, insane, the kind of thought you laugh at for half a second before shoving it away. But I didn't shove it away. I let it grow. I pictured the Rover folding under the weight of that steel bumper, glass shattering, alarms wailing. I pictured Karen's face when her fortress of leather seats and Bluetooth and heated cup holders was reduced to a crumpled tin can. The more I imagined it, the calmer I felt. Like justice had been sitting in my driveway all along, waiting for me to notice. I drained the last of my coffee, set the mug on the hood of my pickup, and looked at the Range Rover one more time. Deal with it, I muttered. I turned on my heel, walked to the back lot, and fired up the truck. The diesel engine roared to life, rattling windows up and down the street. Curtains twitched, dogs barked. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled. This wasn't about the gate anymore. This was about respect. And Karen was about to learn exactly what it meant to block the wrong man's driveway. The engine's roar was like thunder rolling through the Colt D-Sac, rattling glass panes in their frames. I sat high in the cab of the logging truck, hands gripping the wheel, the vibrations thrumming through me. It wasn't just a machine. It felt alive. A monster waking up after a long sleep, hungry for something to crush. The diesel fumes drifted heavy into the morning air, mingling with the scent of freshly cut lawns and watered gardens. People were noticing. Curtains peeled back, blinds shifted, faces peeked out. The kind of faces that pretended to mind their business most days, but now curiosity gloomed to the window. Nobody ever ignored a noise like this. Karen's door swung open across the street. She stepped out, lat still in hand, her hair perfectly smoothed as if she had been preparing for a photo shoot rather than a battle. The look on her face when she saw me behind the wheel was priceless. First confusion, then irritation, and finally, when she saw where I aimed the nose of my truck, outrage, pure unfiltered outrage. She marched down her driveway, her voice already climbing. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she shouted, her words muffled by the rumble of the diesel. I didn't answer. Not yet. I wanted her to hear it, to feel it, the vibration of inevitability shaking the ground beneath her feet. I eased the clutch, let the truck lurch forward a foot, and stopped again. The bumper loomed inches from her gleaming white Range Rover. The sunlight bounced off its polished hood, making it look almost angelic, like something begging to be sacrificed. Karen's pace quickened, panic finally breaking through the cracks of her composure. "That's my car. Stop. You can't do that. Are you insane?" She slapped the hood of the Rover like she could protect it with her hand. "You'll pay for this. I'll shoot you into the ground." The truck growled as I revved the engine, the RPM needle climbing like a predator sniffing blood. The sound drowned her out, made her shrill protests disappear into the background hum of inevitability. Her lat cup trembled in her hand. For once, she wasn't in control. Neighbors were stepping out now. Some cautiously onto porches, others onto their driveways. Phones appeared. Raised and stopped me. Nobody dared. They were here to witness, to record, to feast on the kind of spectacle suburban life rarely offered. Karen had been their tyrant too. She'd written them up for mailboxes being the wrong shade of beige, for grass growing a quarter inch too high, for kids' bikes left on lawns. The neighborhood was full of her victims, and they were hungry for retribution. Even if they weren't the ones driving the truck, I leaned out of the cab window fairly, my voice calm, even pleasant. "Last chance." Her eyes went wide, then narrowed into a glare so sharp it could cut glass. "It's public property," she screamed, voice cracking. "You don't own the street." "That's what you said," I replied, smiling thinly. "So I guess I can drive on it too," and then I released the clutch. The truck surged forward, heavy and unstoppable, steel teeth closing in. The first touch was almost delicate, the bumper kissing the Rover's rear panel. Then came the sound, metal shrieking, glass fracturing, alarms blaring like a dying animal's cry. The SUV lifted slightly before it buckled, tires collapsing under the sheer weight pressing down. The hood crumpled, headlights popped. The windshield spiderwebbed instantly. Karen screamed, a sound more raw than anything she'd ever let out during her patio tirades. She stumbled backward, lat spilling across the pavement, arms flailing. Her voice cracked into sobs as she shrieked, "Stop! Stop! That's a $100,000 car. I didn't stop." I pressed forward steadily, methodically, until the Rover was flattened against my gate. A puff of acrid smoke hissed from the crushed hood, mingling with the truck's diesel exhaust. The SUV's alarm wailed weakly, a pathetic whimper beneath the roar of my engine. When I finally stopped, I shifted into neutral and killed the ignition. Silence fell, broken only by the clicking of cooling metal and Karen's sobs echoing across the Colt D-Sac. The neighbors' phones were still up, recording every second. Some of them had hands over their mouths, not in shock but in awe. And then came the murmurs, spreading like wildfire. Finally, about time someone did it. She had it coming. Karen staggered toward the wreck, clutching her hair with both hands, as if she could rewind time and pull her precious SUV back into its perfect, unblemished state. She turned on me, eyes wild, mascara smudged by tears she hadn't planned on crying. "You lunatic, you'll go to jail for this. Do you hear me, Jay?" I climbed down from the cab slowly, boots hitting the pavement with deliberate weight. I didn't rush. I wanted every step to echo, every moment to burn into her memory. Standing beside the wreck, I pointed the gate now unobstructed, wide open and clear for the first time all week. "And this," I said, my voice low but carrying across the street, "is my driveway." Karen blinked, mouth working soundlessly, her fury tangling with humiliation. She wanted to scream more, to claw at me with words sharp enough to cut, but the audience around her silenced her. Every neighbor's eyes bore down on her. Not me. She was no longer the queen of the HOA. She was the woman who'd lost her kingdom in front of an audience armed with cameras. A cheer broke from the crowd, small at first, then louder. A teenager across the street whooped. Someone clapped. A voice called, "He did what we all wanted to do." Laughter followed, bright and unrestrained, the kind of laughter people had held back for years, living under her scrutiny. Karen shrank. She wasn't used to being the joke, wasn't used to being the one everyone pointed at. She stumbled backward toward her porch, eyes darting left and right, searching for someone to take her side. Nobody did. Not a single neighbor stepped forward to defend her. Even her so-called HOA allies had their phones up recording, keeping their distance. Loyalty crumbled faster than her Range Rover's hood. She screamed one last time, voice hoarse and desperate. "This isn't over. I'll have you arrested. I'll—" Her threat dissolved as I started the logging truck again, the engine's roar drowning her out. She flinched, retreating toward her door like a cornered animal, and vanished inside her house. Curtains snapped shut one by one, but I knew the footage was already flying into group chats, onto social media, becoming legend before her front door even closed. I looked around at the faces, vehemently, as Karen bullied them for years. Some of them nodded at me, quiet approval in their eyes. Others grinned outright. A few even applauded again, tentative but genuine. I didn't smile, I didn't wave. I just climbed back into the cab, shifted gears, and pulled the truck into the now clear lot. The gate swung wide with ease, unblocked, unobstructed. Justice wasn't neat. It wasn't polite. Sometimes it was loud, messy, and left the smell of diesel and scorched rubber hanging in the morning air. But it was justice all the same. And Karen, she parked at the community center after that. Would you like me to write an epilogue scene? Maybe Karen tries revenge and fails, or the HOA actually sides with you to give the story an extra punch of closure.